get announced, and then they come out, and they have to do a standing ovation.
Good evening.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah, I got it. Good evening. If everybody wanted to get in a seat, I know we're having some great conversations, but we'd like to go ahead and get started. Good evening. I'm Steve Hirschner. I'm the City of Cedar Rapids Utilities Director. It's my honor this evening to welcome everyone to this edition of Sustainable City Talks. As you can see from our title today, it's Local Leaders Embracing Sustainability. I did want to take the opportunity to introduce a couple of elected officials in the audience, Council members Chris Julich, they'd raise their hand, and Scott Oberlin. Thank you very much for attending and being with us tonight. I also want to thank all of our community partners and residents, citizens, for being with us here tonight as well. And then I'd like to start our conversation tonight by reading the City of Cedar Rapids vision statement. Cedar Rapids is a vibrant urban hometown, a beacon for people and businesses invested in building a greater community now and for the next generation. We also uphold the values of stewardship, and in that sense, we responsibly manage the resources entrusted to us. We also uphold the values of accountability and integrity, communication, dignity and fairness, diversity, teamwork, and initiative. The City of Cedar Rapids recognizes our responsibility to be a leader in building and maintaining a sustainable community for future generations, but we can't do this alone. Our topic and presentations tonight illustrate that community partners and businesses are managing their forever footprints in many different ways. Thank you for attending tonight. It's my pleasure to introduce Eric Holthaus, Sustainability Coordinator for the City of Cedar Rapids, who will introduce each of the speakers and lead the question and answer portion of tonight's presentation. Thank you.
I'm going to try this.
All right, greetings everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. This is our second Sustainable City Talk, another formidable audience this evening as well as this afternoon. We had a 3 p.m. session, and that was mostly for city staff and other people working during the day. So it's nice to have 2 opportunities to get you in the doors. I work as a city sustainability coordinator, and tonight I have the privilege of introducing these folks as they come up, but a few housekeeping items. One, we are Facebook live streaming now, and so if you want to leave right now and go home and live stream it, you can. No, but we are doing that, and we're also filming it, and that'll be on our website at a later date. You had the opportunity to pick up, and I can equip you with them if you need, question and priority cards. We want to hear from you. What priorities do you think should be most important to us moving forward as a city and as a community? And there are also opportunities for you to ask questions on there. So the last 30 minutes of tonight, and it might be a little bit less, I think we had about 20 at the day session, will be reserved for a question and answer, and so we want to hear your questions. And I'll be collecting those in the aisle, so just kind of I'll be looking for you, look at me, and we'll collect them, and I'll remind you between speakers as well. We won't be able to get to all questions, likely, just a note. And then I also hope that you noticed coming in and might have time to look at going out the posters in the hallways that represent not just the work of these fellows here and their organizations, but the work of many organizations. And I think it's really important, these kinds of social norms. A lot of people are doing this. A lot of people show up. It's a really important thing of keeping this conversation going, is realizing that a lot of people are involved in a lot of different ways. You're going to hear some really great stories tonight, and we do appreciate you showing up. So now we're just going to get into Mark Weldon's bio. So Mark Weldon here, our first speaker, is the Sustainability Principal Engineer at Quaker Oats and PepsiCo. He's an engineer by training and experience. He holds bachelor's degree, master's degree, and doctoral degrees. I'm going to let him tell you where because I forgot and I was wrong the first time. He spent much of his career working in industrial power plants in the pulp and paper, building products, and food product industries. He also worked as a plant engineer for Midwestern Municipal Electrical Utility. His current position is focused on energy conservation and environmental sustainability for a large food manufacturer. And Mark has been a college instructor and carried out research in the areas of ground source heat pump systems and the association of water quality in Midwestern rivers with agricultural land use patterns. He authored a book, The Fundamentals of Practical Environmentalism, which discusses environmentalism from an individual perspective and proposes a simple yet effective approach for making environmentally beneficial decisions. Mark Weldon.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you all for being here. It's a pleasure to be able to spend some time with you. I'm going to try to go a little bit faster than I did this afternoon. I think I was a little tardy this afternoon, so I probably won't talk about every bullet point on every slide, but I do encourage you to ask any questions that you'd like to during the Q&A part. So just a little bit about me. I'm a sustainability engineer, focused primarily on Quaker oats, and I'm responsible for helping 4 Quaker plants in the U.S. work on their sustainability goals and make progress on energy conservation, water conservation, and waste minimization. I'm also involved here in Cedar Rapids with an organization called the Regional Sustainable Business Alliance. I'm on the steering committee for that group, and that's an organization that tries to promote sustainability in business activities in the corridor area. I am a mechanical and an environmental engineer. I went to Illinois and then Arkansas and then Iowa. At the earlier session, Eric said I went to Iowa for all of them, and I had to admit that wasn't true, even though I did like Iowa the best. So hopefully that helps a little bit. And finally, I do consider myself an environmentalist. I guess after a few minutes here, you can tell me if you agree with that assessment or not. Before I talk a lot, I really wanted to put this slide up, and I'm not going to read it, but you can read it. But this is Indra Nooyi, the chairman and CEO of PepsiCo, and really a very strong proponent of environmental sustainability and social responsibility. And much of what I'm going to show you in these slides really comes from her and our executive leadership team and the emphasis and the effort they put into environmental sustainability. So I'm very fortunate to work for a company that has strong leadership at the top that values sustainability. Within PepsiCo, we call it performance with purpose. I'm going to show you a slide in a bit that talks a little bit more about that. But basically, it's about delivering good, strong financial performance that also integrates sustainability into our overall business strategy. So they're not two separate things. We try to do both of them at the same time. Here's kind of our little symbol that we talk about in terms of performance with purpose. And for us, it has to do with products, planet, and people. So products in this sense means human nourishment. It talks about our products and their healthiness, if you will. So if you know much about our company, you know that we make a lot of products that taste really good, but that maybe not necessarily aren't very good for you. Maybe you don't know about some of the products that taste good and are healthy for you. So that is something that we kind of run the gamut on in terms of as the future unfolds, right? We want to be able to provide products that people want, and we really see that as going in very much a health and wellness trajectory right now. And so I'm not sure you'll see a lot of that in these slides, but I'm going to refer to some documents that you can look at if you're interested in sustainability from that nutritional perspective. Planet, that's the area of sustainability that I work in. And here we're talking about water use, carbon impacts, recycling, landfill, that kind of thing. And so most of my presentation is really going to talk about that area. And then finally, performance with purpose for people. Let's talk about human rights, social issues, prosperity, fairness, equity, all those kind of things. So again, I'm not going to cover that very much because it's not the area that I work in, but just wanted to give you an overview of what performance with purpose really means to us. Here's a little bit more of a detail in the performance with purpose planet section. And we're here talking about achieving a positive water impact. So that's not only about the amount of water that we use in our plants, but the water impact into the communities that we operate and the watersheds that we operate. Sourcing sustainability refers to the products and ingredients we buy from our suppliers and our farmer partners, and how sustainability enters into those things. And then reducing and eliminating waste. This has got a component both within our factories and also with what happens to our products that our customers buy and the packaging materials that go along with that. Then on the right, and this is one of my favorite charts, this is about carbon emissions. I'm going to talk a little bit about carbon emissions later on. But what this chart really shows is that carbon emissions occur from many points within our products, and not all of them are due to our own manufacturing plants. As a matter of fact, you'll see that 7% on the very bottom right there is from our operations. So our estimates say that of the product life cycle, if you will, the products that we make, in our plants we're responsible for about 7% of the greenhouse gas emissions. And 93% of the greenhouse gas emissions are associated with our products, but associated outside of our plant, so in our value chain. And so all the suppliers and partners and other people that we work with that give us the things that we need to actually make our products and deliver them. Okay? This is an inside look at some of our manufacturing plants. I work on a team that's also got people who focus on Pepsi bottling plants and Gatorade plants and Tropicana juice plants. Used to work on a team on the Frito-Lay side of the business. So we have teams of sustainability engineers, basically, that work in all these plants around the country. All of our plants tend to use a good bit of energy, and so in the past, energy conservation has been a big focus of ours. Still is now, but we're changing a little bit, and I'll explain that to you as we go forward. Sometimes I use the term resource conservation, and really, this is the thing that we tend to focus on within our plants. This is natural gas, electricity, water, and it's part of sustainability, but it's not the big sustainability view. So the area that I work in is a small segment of the sustainability work that's being done in the company. But it's the area that I know about, and so this is what I'm going to talk about in my presentation. But again, in the Q&A, I'd be happy to at least address some of the bigger issues about sustainability. But PepsiCo has got hundreds of people that work in sustainability in different ways. And so again, I'm going to focus on my little piece. And sometimes you might hear me use the acronym RC. It stands for Resource Conservation. But basically, it's energy, water, and waste. And how do we minimize those things within our own factories? So in energy, it's typically natural gas and electricity are the big things that we deal with. Some of our plants have biomass boilers. Some of them have solar fields, both thermal and electric solar. Some of our plants have cogeneration, where we make electricity and produce either steam or hot water at the same site. So we're doing a number of things throughout our company to try to become more efficient and try to move our fuel mix away from fossil fuels and towards renewables. Our company, we care a lot about water. And we're a beverages company primarily, so it's understandable. We use a lot of water, and so we care about water in pretty much all of its forms. City water that we buy as utility. Some of our facilities use well water. Some actually collect rainwater and use some rainwater in parts of the process. And we also care about the water that leaves our plant, typically in a city sewer fashion. In terms of waste, I concentrate mainly on landfill and recycling. And so how much of our plant's trash ends up in the landfill? How much can we divert into recycling streams? One of the things that's really important for our company, and I think for lots of bigger companies, is goals. And I think it's really important. I'm going to talk a good bit about goals in the next few slides. For us, we have short-term goals and we have long-term goals. So we have annual goals. So we're always comparing ourselves to how we did this year versus last year, even how we did this month versus the same month last year. And we do it kind of across the board in gas use, electricity use, greenhouse gas generation, water waste, recycling, all of those kind of things. We also focus on long-term goals, and the long-term goals come to us via PepsiCo, via our corporation. So our corporation has these broad long-term goals where we're looking at a certain percentage improvement over a 10-year to a 15-year time frame. Most of our goals, particularly in the past, have been intensity-based. And what that means is how much of a resource you use to make a certain volume of your product. So if you were measuring it, you might be interested in how much energy in BTUs it takes to make a pound of your product. And so for us, we do that because our product volumes can go up and down, but we want to make each product as efficiently as possible and ideally more efficiently than we did the last year. So we feel like this intensity measure is a good way to do that. We also do some things in terms of absolute measurements, particularly with greenhouse gases, just the total amount of greenhouse gases that we're responsible for at our plants. Is that going up or down? Before I leave this slide, we do publicize our goals. So you can go out on the internet and you can find our reports and you can read them in details to what the goals are going to be. But the publication really has a very beneficial impact internally as well within all of our plants. It really helps people remember that it's a business priority for us to do this, and then I tend to get a lot more support when I come up with project ideas and things that I'm asking people to do. Okay, so I promised a little bit about these long-term goals. So PepsiCo had some goals that came out around 2006 over a 10-year time frame, so 06 to 15. And at that time, we said that we were going to reduce our total energy intensity, again, the amount of energy we use per pound of our product, by 20%, and water intensity also by 20%. We did pretty good. We didn't quite make the energy, so we did an 18% reduction for PepsiCo across the board in terms of energy. We did very well on water. We did a 26% water reduction for PepsiCo as a whole for the 10-year time frame. You should be proud of the plant here in Cedar Rapids. They did much better in terms of water reduction. They had a 50% water reduction in 06 to 15. So apologize to city staff if I've impacted your budgets at all on the water, but the plant did a very good job. This is just a picture to remind me to tell you that this is available on the internet. So the sustainability report, or the PepsiCo 2025 agenda, is a 40-page document that you can easily get. And this details what our plans are for the next 10 years. Okay? This is a page from that, so we're not going to read it all the way through, but I just wanted to give you an example of what's in there. Just in some of the categories, we're talking about positive water impact, lower carbon emissions. Within that document, you can see what some of the goals are and what are some of the proposed actions to get there. So again, just want you to know that's available. So if you do have an interest, you can go there. It's a fairly readable document. It's not too bad. And so there's some good information in there if you want that level of detail. What I want to do with this slide is I want to make a little bit of a transition and going from these big corporate goals to how do we implement those at a facility or at a plant level, okay? And as I said, goals were very important. This is very important too, and I think this is something we do a pretty good job at in terms of measuring, monitoring, and reporting. And so we go through an exercise every 4 weeks. We have 4-week periods. And every 4 weeks, we account for all the energy that we use, all the water that we use, the waste that we generated, the recycling we did, all of that. And we report on it. So we put it in reports and we share that with our division management and things like that. So we measure how much we've used in the units of the resource itself. So millions of BTUs for natural gas, for example, or kilowatt hours for electricity, gallons for water. We also measure in dollars, how much we spent in that past 4 weeks on those utilities. We compare that to a year ago. So we just finished our 4-week period this past weekend, and so I'm getting ready to report out, well, how did we do in January of 2017 for the first 4 weeks versus January of 2016 for the first 4 weeks. We also compare it versus our long-term goal. We make sure that the people in our plants are aware of what's going on. So this structure has worked out very well. It keeps people very focused. And I think it's one of the reasons that we've done well is because people are essentially forced to pay attention to it. And it's part of my job to be a pest and to make them at least look at the data and be accountable for it. So this is one of the things that may seem a little administrative, but I think it's really important in a sustainability program, particularly for a fairly large company. So after you do all that measuring and monitoring and reporting, that doesn't actually produce any results, right? So how do we actually do things that give us the savings and give us the improvements? And so there's a lot of things that we've done. And really it's about finding those ideas, those projects, those tactics that are worth doing and that you're able to do within your organization. So we brainstorm, we have audits, both internal and external. We do loss analysis from a kind of an accounting, a financial accounting perspective. We benchmark, so we compare one plan against another and have a little bit of peer pressure there. It also helps us know which plants may need some extra help around certain things if a plant is not performing as well as some others, and we try to transfer best practices and learning from one to another so we can help each other out. I have what I call an RC tactics list, a resource conservation list of project ideas and things. It's a big long spreadsheet, probably 100, 150 different things for the 4 plants that I'm responsible for. And so we literally track by project, and we report on, is that project going, how much is it saving, when it's going to be done, all that kind of thing. Another thing that we've done is creating plant-level green teams, so people, operations, maintenance people at the plants. And this has been a bit hit or miss. You know, some plants do a better job at this than others, but trying to get the people who know the operations best to help us figure out how to improve them and make them more efficient. And I know it's last on this list, but this is one of the things that I think is real important too, is every one of our plants has a resource conservation leader, right? It's generally not a full-time job. I'm kind of lucky in that I have sustainability as my full-time job. And I work with these people, but they all have other jobs as well at the plants. But there's one person at every plant who's a go-to person, who's responsible for the reports, responsible for communication, responsible for working with me on the ideas and all that kind of a thing. So there's some accountability there, and that's been very useful as well. Okay, so now even getting a little bit more to, well, what actually do we do and how we do it, and what's our strategy for trying to get some of these improvements? Generally, we try to start with the easiest things. There's a term called low-hanging fruit, right, that lots of people use. We're kind of running out of that. So in the Quaker, we've been on this resource conservation journey for probably 12 or 13 years. Other parts of our company are in the 15 to 20-year time frame. So we've done a lot of things over the years. And so it gets a little harder and harder to find things that are very obvious. But still, even now, there are things, what I call low capital operational improvements, things where we can walk out into our plants and we can find equipment that's running when it doesn't need to be. We can find compressed air that's leaking and different things like that. So this is always the thing that we look for first. And they may seem like very mundane and simple things, but they've got a great rate of return, right? Because you get savings and you don't have to invest very much money, if anything at all. After that, we tend to look for simple projects that are not critical to our process. And so when I say they're not critical, they're not part of our manufacturing process per se. They're part of the systems and equipment that support that. So our air piping system, our water piping system, steam traps, insulation, the lighting, all those kind of things. So we look for opportunities to make improvements there, frankly, because they're a little easier, because we're not impacting our production processes at all. After that, then we start looking at what I would call process optimization. There's a lot of potential here, but it gets harder, okay? Because now we are impacting our process. And whenever we start to touch our process and change the way that we're talking about doing it, there's all sorts of other considerations that come up. We still have to operate in a safe manner. We still have to reduce quality. We still have to have good maintainability and equipment, all those kind of things. So very, very possible, but more difficult. And then finally, and sometimes you hear a lot about these bigger projects, a new boiler, a new air compressor, a new solar installation, a wind turbine, things like that. They get a lot of press. We look at them too, but they're harder to do. They cost a lot more money. They take a lot more time. And so we really try to have a balanced approach and make sure that we're doing some of the smaller, simpler things that are easier to do, as well as some of the bigger items when they make sense. Another thing that we try to do is we try to leverage our resources and our opportunities. And really, we're fortunate in Iowa to have a state government that has set up an energy efficiency program at the state level. We're fortunate to have utility companies that participate in that. And we've benefited with our association with the utilities, both financially in terms of rebates, as well as their time and expertise as they help us with audits and studies and things like that. So I always think it's a great thing to do, is to involve those partners in terms of resource conservation and sustainability. We look for sustainability in other projects. And actually, we do more of this than we do sustainability projects. So whenever we have a project that comes up in the plan, I usually get to hear about it. And we're always looking to say, okay, you want to do that. Can we do it slightly different and then get a sustainability benefit from it too, and then maybe increase our savings on this project? So this idea of working with other people, plants, departments, right, to find a better way to do what they want to do is good, because they're not always thinking directly about sustainability. But oftentimes you can put those two things together and come up with a better result. It was very similar to the last item, you know, if you can work with different departments to produce multiple benefits, oftentimes you get a project that moves through very quickly. And finally, I've just got two more slides, and just wanted to, you know, I've kind of drilled down into how we run this sustainability program at Quaker with some of these specifics. But we do understand that sustainability is much more than energy savings, water savings, things like that. Again, that's the area that I work in, so that's what I know the most about. But it is bigger than that. We know that different groups have even different definitions of what sustainability means and what's important. And we see that both within our organization and as we go outside of our organization to our customers and to the communities that we operate in. We also understand that it has social impacts, right, in the communities in terms of resources availability and things like that. And of course, even to the point of global environmental issues, particularly with greenhouse gases. So it runs a very large gamut in terms of the impact that it has. Finally, again, thank you for coming to listen to us tonight. These are kind of my closing thoughts about sustainability, kind of what I've figured out over the past 8 years or so. I look at it as a journey of continuous improvement. And I think within PepsiCo we do the same as well. We want to be a little bit better this year than we were last year. And then next year we want to be a little bit better, right? So we want to plan to always move that mark, little bit by little bit by little bit. And also we think that sustainability is a great investment for the future. Production lines may come and go, products may come and go, but when you make investments into how your plant operates, and if you can reduce the number of resources that you need to make your plant run, that stays with you regardless. And then finally, we do very much believe that sustainability is a joint effort. I see that every day in the work that I try to do at the Cedar Rapids plant here. Just the fact that the city is hosting us, we can see that it is a joint effort, and we have another couple of distinguished speakers who are going to share their perspectives. But if we can all work together, I think we can produce some amazing results. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark, for sharing your story. Two quick notes. You might have a napkin in your hand, and there's a green compost bin for that when you leave. And if you have a plastic cup, there's a blue recycling bin for that. Just want to get that out there. And if you need a priority card / question card, I got them here. Actually, show of hands, does anyone want one so I can kind of track you down? Okay.
Some of them don't have pens, I noticed.
Some of you don't have pens, so okay, got my assistant Holly's on that. She's all right. So we'll get those passed out. Just as I go up the row here, we'll connect with you. So thanks for your help, Holly. We're going to move on to our next speaker. So Dr. Dave McInally, president of Coe College. Dave McInally took office as the 15th president of Coe College on July 1st, 2013. Early in his tenure, he launched efforts to increase Coe's enrollment, improve student success rates, enhance facilities, and elevate the college's visibility within the region and beyond. Actually, maybe we can take care of this right now. Hey, Holly. You want to maybe just pop your hand up a little bit? We can do two things at the same time. Okay. And elevate the college's visibility within the region and beyond. Along with introducing the Make Your Move campaign in the fall of 2015, which initiated the largest building project in Coe's history, McInally was instrumental in creating the college's new 5-year strategic plan, A Bolder Coe. McInally's professional interests include strategic planning, higher education finance, and environmental sustainability, where he has been active in the American College and University President's Climate Commitment. President McInally believes strongly in the vital relationship between Coe College and Cedar Rapids. He serves on the board of directors of several nonprofits, including the Cedar Rapids Museum of Art, the Willis Dady Emergency Shelter, Diversity Focus, and the Revival Theater Company. Please welcome Dr. Dave McInally.
Thank you, Eric. Well, let me start with this. We have three very different sorts of organizations here. And we have this incredible common ground, this interest, this passion we have around the idea of sustainability. And it thrills me. I mean, it lifts my heart. Then I add to that you all have chosen to be here tonight. And, well, it just gives me a lot of hope. And we're doing it in a LEED Platinum library. I mean, we have a lot going for us here.
Yeah.
And so
Nice.
I am very grateful to all of you for being here to be part of it. I have 4 topics to go over tonight so that you can keep me moving, keep me on task here. And the first is to talk a little bit about sustainability in the higher education arena in the U.S. Second is to talk about COAS's history and present with something that I'm calling anyway, kind of organic sustainability initiatives. Third is COAS's future in regard to sustainability, something I'm calling strategic initiatives. And fourth, while I didn't put it on the slide, I think in many ways it's the most important of all, I'd like to say a little bit about why. Not just what we're doing, why. So let me begin with the national picture for higher ed. And I'm going to do this just by sharing with you some information about a couple of organizations that have brought together colleges and universities. The first, this thing called the President's Climate Commitment, what used to be known as the American College and University President's Climate Commitment. Can you believe they got rid of that name, the way it rolls off the tongue, how easy it is to remember? There are nearly 700 members. They represent, you can see the percentage of American colleges and universities. It involves creating climate action plans, doing greenhouse gas inventories, and it provides a great deal of room for institutions to be self-directed in determining what's in their climate action plans. It includes, there are 3 different sorts of commitments: a carbon commitment that is focused, as you can tell, on reducing harmful greenhouse gases. A resilience commitment, which is a new wrinkle and a new trend in this field of sustainability, focusing on climate adaptation, specific goals, as well as building community capacity to deal with a constantly changing climate and resulting extremes. And third, the climate commitment, which is nothing more than both of those. So if you agree to both of the first 2 commitments, then you have signed on to the climate commitment. That's a fairly new initiative. CO is one of 91 charter signatories of the climate commitment. Let me share with you some of what has happened as the result of the President's climate commitment. Well, not as a result, but maybe along the way with the President's climate commitment. I won't read these to you. You can see some of these statistics. But I'd like to emphasize that part of what makes this work is that this is not a government requirement. It has nothing to do with accreditation of our teaching mission. This is something colleges and universities have voluntarily decided to do, and to do together. Because not only do we learn from one another, but there's a little healthy competition involved in this as well. We've really made progress when the cool kids are into sustainability. So these are the cool colleges, as far as I'm concerned, the ones who are making progress on this, and we try to keep up with one another. Another couple of national efforts. You can see the first one. AISHE is a professional association, largely of sustainability coordinators. Nearly 1,000 campuses are on board. CO recently came on board as the result of a student initiative, some of you here tonight, who studied this and suggested that it would be a good idea for CO. I'll talk a little more about that in a moment, about those student initiatives. One of the features of this organization is this STAR system. You can see what it means there. And once again, this is a voluntary program, but it is critical because it speaks to the idea of benchmarking. Sustainability requires good intentions, but more than good intentions if we're going to make the difference that we need to make in our environment, in our planet. And so these rating systems, these benchmarking systems, help you track progress. In this case, it is entirely a positive reinforcement system. You aren't punished for failing to hit them. But these stars can be found, at least in the higher ed world, in 4 categories. Academics, such as teaching and research, engagement on campus and with the public, operations, that's what you might expect it might be, energy use, waste, water, transportation, purchasing, those sorts of things. And finally, planning and administration, which speaks to strategic planning, diversity, management of investments, those sorts of things. I've also mentioned a couple of initiatives that were prompted by the White House, the Green Building Challenge, and which should be a separate one. It's not underneath the American Campuses Act on Climate, but that is another form of commitment. Those were both led by the Obama administration. We do not know if they will continue under the new administration. So that is, I heard a chuckle there.
What do you mean by that exactly?
I can tell you that if you go to whitehouse.gov, there's no information on these any longer, just some past information. So we'll work on that. So that's some of what's going on in the higher ed world nationally. But let me turn now to CO's initiatives. And I called this organic, but it's really a key central point I'd like to make. You might also think of these as bottom-up initiatives, which I will contrast in a little bit with top-down. That's kind of can be a false dichotomy, but it's the incredible power that can be harnessed when you have people who care about this, work on it not because it's a job requirement, but a passion for them, and sometimes accomplish great things despite the fact that the organization itself does not make it a priority, which I have to say was the history with CO. It wasn't in the strategic plan or in the budget or anything else like that. But imagine how much more powerful that can be if you add to it the strategic direction and support across the whole organization, which you could call top-down. But CO's notable accomplishments, and I've only listed a few here, but have been created by faculty members, staff members, and students over the years because they cared about those things. And I was stunned when I arrived at CO nearly 4 years ago to learn how much we had for an organization that really had not adopted sustainability at the board level or at the senior level. Some of the people who created these are in the room tonight, and I'll avoid embarrassing them, but I know that you know some of them. Let me just show you a few pictures instead of going through these one by one. The Wilderness Field Station formerly was operated by an academic consortium and taken over by CO when that consortium dropped it. It's located in the boundary waters of Minnesota and provides an unbelievable setting. This is not from a magazine. This is an actual photo of our real Wilderness Field Station. Unbelievable setting for teaching biology, botany, environmental writing, and more. The next item I'll mention is the steam plant. This was an opportunity that was embraced by CO in St. Luke's following the flood in 2008 when we no longer had heat and had to come up with a new system. St. Luke's and CO collaborated on this. It's a LEED building, and one of the wonderful benefits for which we cannot take credit, but we celebrate it, is that our steam that was formerly provided by coal-fired generators is now natural gas, resulting in a 19% reduction in CO's carbon footprint just like that. And it was making the best of a very difficult situation. I'll mention some of the water management here, and some of the people responsible for that are with us today as well. This is an example of a rain garden and a new patio, permeable pavers selected by the students to give their gifts to make this happen, which shows you a little bit about the cultural changes that we're trying to develop. Speaking of wastewater management or stormwater management, this is a brand new parking lot at CO. This photograph is very recent. We tried to get it on a sunny day, but the sun has not shone in January as far as I can tell. And so when we replaced an old parking lot because of the new athletic facility that's being constructed at CO now, we determined to make this a permeable lot. It costs more, but thanks to some wonderful work on a grant by Marty St. Clair, who is here now, it ended up costing CO no more than it would have otherwise. It's a very important lesson for all of us that when you hear the argument, we want to do this in a sustainable way, but it costs too much. stop that person in their tracks. There are ways to fund initiatives and green buildings that will make it affordable for you, and certainly much more affordable in the long run for the organization and for our planet. Now, I don't have photos of all of the other initiatives I mentioned, but I've got to mention a notable one, Dining, which was led by Tom Weisler, who's also with us now, and I know a person who many of you know, began with composting, recycling that Tom did personally, and grew into a nationally recognized recyclable and composting program and renewable dining program. Water research is one of the academic elements that's carried out in our program. I will go through these quickly, but yes, these are photos that probably could be applied to any college, students working in labs. But this is hands-on work that our students are doing to improve water quality in eastern Iowa, and they are learning at the same time. I'll just stop with these, because I'm racing through them so quickly, but it's important for us to acknowledge, particularly in organizations like colleges where this is all voluntary, the power in individuals behaving in an entrepreneurial way on a topic that means a lot to them. Sometimes all you have to do is make it possible for them with a small amount of money, with rhetorical support, with whatever it might be, to accomplish great things. But now I think it's time for Co to turn to the future and to some strategic initiatives that will fundamentally change our impact on the environment. I'm only going to mention two of them tonight. The first, this energy services contract, it's a typical energy services agreement. Many of you are probably familiar with that, focused on paybacks. We did have a lot of that low-hanging fruit that Mark mentioned, and are making a number of improvements in our campus. This is nearly complete over the last 2 years, and it will take about 15 years to pay itself back through utilities savings. But we will consume much less energy, possibly reducing our carbon footprint by another 25% or close to that as a result of this project. And then next, our strategic plan, which, as Eric mentioned, is called A Bolder Co. This plan is the result of a comprehensive planning process where we focused on trends outside the world of higher ed, some of what's happening tonight, where we learn what's going on in other organizations, political, economic, social, technological, demographic trends, and tried to position the college to succeed in the world that we imagine we will be living in. And the purpose of this plan is to increase our value proposition so that we may grow the enrollment of the college. Our goal is to increase enrollment. And there are a number of programs. It's a fairly compact, targeted plan, small number of powerful initiatives that we think will attract more students. It includes what you see on the screen, and one of my favorites, the Urban Field Station. So this is the signature sustainability initiative in that new strategic plan, and will be a big part of our future. We are fortunate, I think, very, very fortunate to be located where we are, with all the resources of this city and with all of the other people who share this mission. We also think it gives us the opportunity to demonstrate to the world and to prospective students how we can be a sustainable operation in an urban setting. It would make us, as far as we know, the only college in America with both a wilderness field station and an urban field station. Now, you might say, what does that mean? What's an urban field station anyway? I won't go into all the details tonight in the interest of time, but here are the key elements as we've articulated them in the strategic plan and subsequent discussions. The first one, you won't know what does 5 urban acres mean? Well, it's just a sort of marketing tag. We're hanging on it for now. But we would transform these acres on our campus into habitat supportive of migrating species, edible plantings, improved aesthetics, reduced maintenance, many of the best practices for landscaping with sustainability. With energy offset, we do not purchase any renewable energy now. It's, you know what I said about the cool kids? I'm embarrassed because the other cool kids among colleges have a significant percentage of renewable energy purchase. We've got to catch up to them. That's the power of these sorts of associations. And so we are investigating a solar array now and may have one installed as soon as the next academic year. With community outreach, water and ecological design, I think those may speak for themselves. I mentioned the last bullet. One more of these organic ideas. We do not have a department or full-time faculty devoted to environmental science or environmental studies. We've been able to accomplish all of this because of biologists, chemists, theater faculty, writing professors, and others who cared about sustainability and created courses. And we then packaged them into environmental studies, environmental science programs. But I think we need to give this the kind of sustainability, the kind of force that accompanies an institutional commitment where we hire faculty trained in these areas and dedicated to these areas so that we can be sure they continue in a structural, institutionalized way, even when we no longer have some of the people we have now with their passions and with all they've contributed to the college. And I'll turn to the final point now. Why are we doing this? The first answer is obvious. It makes practical sense. And often that's how you start. If you're with an organization and they're not interested in sustainability, you make the business case to them. We can save some money if we do these things. I don't mean to minimize that at all. It's incredibly important. It's driven, you just heard from Mark, it drove a 50% reduction in water use from Quaker here in Cedar Rapids. So that is important. But what about when you've captured those things and you have to move beyond that payback? Well, my opinion, one of the reasons I'm so focused on this and have asked the co-community to do that as well is that I do believe that climate change is a very serious risk, and I believe it affects all people across all national boundaries or political parties or whatever it might be. It has become politicized in America, which I think is a terribly risky kind of environment in which we should operate. This affects all people and all organisms on our planet. In fact, there was a great story in the Gazette just a couple of weeks ago reporting that the record for the warmest global temperature has been broken 5 times since 2000, and 2014, 15, and 16 were the warmest years on records, according to NASA and NOAA. So, similar organizations in Japan and the UK agree. So I will unapologetically say, I think this is a moral issue, a moral leadership issue. And I'm glad to hear that applause.
Right.
I knew there was one other person who felt the same way. And we can fall into this trap of making it all about the profit and loss. And the financial ledger is important. We need to operate good, healthy financial organizations because it can fuel these things. But we also have to decide what we stand for. And so that's why this is now a priority at CO. Has been a priority for a number of people for a long time. But now we're trying to make it a full-scale institutional priority highlighted in our strategic plan. And the final reason why for us, I've talked a lot about what we're doing on our campus. But our far greater impact, given our business, are our students, are the graduates, the hundreds of graduates who leave our campus each year. And they will enter communities and workplaces and families around the world. And we're not trying to indoctrinate them politically, but we do want them to understand science. We want them to understand how to use evidence to make decisions. We want them to understand how liberating it is to share this information and to understand the risks associated with how we live in our climate, and to take that knowledge into the world to use in ways to make the planet a safer place for all of us. And so those reasons why matter to us. They might not be the same reasons why for each of you, but I think it is worth the time to sit down and say why. Why do I care about this? Why do I care enough to show up tonight? Why should my organization, whatever one you are now in or may be in the future, why should we do this? And once you have the answer to that question, there are lots of us with all different sorts of ideas on the how, and we'll be all too happy to talk about them until we have exceeded our time, as have I. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dave. You did a great job of keeping the energy up and the momentum, even when I was flashing the time in your face. So thank you so much. Thank you for getting through what you did and articulating what you did. Just a couple things before we get on to Steve Shriver, who we always leave at the end in crunch time, but take the time that you need to get your message across. If you have any Q&A, any of the question cards or priority cards, please pass them to Holly. If you did not sign in on your way in, please sign in on the way out. We just want to be able to connect with you if you're a person that would like to stay connected through our newsletter, or in the future when we reach out to organizations because we want to test some ideas or get some information out. That's how we grow that list. And those were the two important things I needed to mention. I wanted to say thank you to Holly Rubel, our city's energy management specialist, for the great job she's done tonight. Sarah Bauman, and before tonight as well. Sarah Bauman, our communication specialist in utilities, put in a lot of hard work, and I don't think she's here, but Amanda Leichty, our city's graphic design coordinator, also did a lot of work to get us here today and making a lot of things look great. So 3 people I wanted to shout out. Now on to Steve Shriver, founder and CEO of Ecolips and the co-owner of Brewhemia. Steve Shriver is an entrepreneurial pioneer in the organic and sustainability movement. He has been in the natural and organic skincare business since 1997, funding and selling skincare manufacturer Raining Rose, which was named after his first 2 daughters' middle names, Hadley Rose and Lindsay Rain. Then founding Ecolips Organic Lip Balm, a brand sold in more than 12,000 retailers across the United States and abroad. Steve also co-owns Brewhemia, a bustling cafe in Cedar Rapids, and owns a commercial real estate building. Steve was one of the founders of the New Bohemia District and currently serves as president of the board of the New Bohemia Group, a nonprofit entity representing New Bohemia District. Steve was named Entrepreneur of the Year by the Corridor Business Journal in 2014, and Ecolips has been consistently awarded Fastest Growing Company by Inc. magazine and the Corridor Business Journal. So please help me welcome Steve Shriver.
Thanks everybody. Thank you. Yeah, it's great turnout. I love to see that the city is doing this and that these guys are here. And even though they have way more credentials than I will ever have or have had, I've learned a lot from them. They stole a lot of my content from what I was going to share with you guys, and they stole my time too. They both went a little bit over. So. Just, the little guy's got to make up for this thing. So it's been a long day. It's great to see all these familiar faces, though, and I can sense a real passion in here for sustainability. So I'm going to share my story. Some of you guys have seen this before. I started back in the late 1900s. I met a young woman back in Iowa City who made a lip balm on her stovetop. And she happened to be kind of cute. She gave me a sample of her lip balm. Within a matter of months, I fell in love with her and the lip balm recipe all at the same time. Around that same time, we started making babies, and we'll get into a little bit more of that. But we grew this company. We called this company Virgin Body Care. One of the ingredients that we used was certified organic virgin olive oil, and we started to adopt a real natural lifestyle. And we ended up having a product that we marketed at retail, but it was very difficult to launch a small brand and on a very shoestring budget. But we were driven, so we ended up creating a line of private label products, soaps, lip balm, cosmetics that were all just as pure as we could possibly make them. And so we did it for private label. So maybe next time the city does something like this, they might choose a local product instead of this product here to give away for free when you get it at the door. But Raining Rose and Ecolips now puts logos on the product for promotional products and for resale. A few years into it, we actually got a cease and desist from a guy named Richard Branson. he didn't like the fact that we use the word virgin because he has the trademark in every single category for the word virgin. And so we by that time we had our two oldest daughters, Lindsay Rain and Hadley Rose. We now have Chloe Blue. She's like, where's my company? But and my other companies are like, how could you, my other daughters are like, how could you sell our name? It's like, it was $1 million. Come on. So we were doing this private label. It was awesome. We were growing. We had 30 employees, and everything was grand, like living the American dream. Through the process, we really came connected to this natural lifestyle. We had a home birth. We didn't have a microwave or a TV. Still kind of don't. And we contemplated, what's next. There was just something not fulfilling about making other people's products, and so we said, you know what? Let's make our own. We saw an opportunity in the organic space, the natural space, to launch the first organic lip balm. So we sold Raining Rose and started Eco Lips. So Raining Rose does the private label thing. Eco Lips goes to market with a product that is the first certified organic lip balm on the market. This is before organics were big. This is before, before we had a new Pioneer Co-op in Cedar Rapids. It was before the Hy-Vees had health food sections. It was questionable as to whether there would be a future in organic, if there'd be a future organic industry. And so just the preface, organic means grown certified without any pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and minimal processing. So we're talking about food-grade ingredients, and we started making a lot of them, selling them to stores, and we looked at this as a way it was our way to share our message of health and our message of environment, and to kind of like use it as a little bit of an activism tool. And we called it a gateway organic product. Again, at the time, there were just a few organic products for sale around here, and we said, if we can give people the experience, this great experience with a small $2 or $3 organic product, then maybe they'll make the leap into an organic dairy product and some organic produce. It's just a little bit more expensive, but maybe they'll get the, they'll feel the health benefits of it and the environmental benefits of it. And we were a part of a few companies that made that investment and took that risk, and it worked. The organic industry is, billions of dollars. So we also had a slogan that was, "Don't panic, it's organic." And that was all so that when our lip balm's sitting here and all of our competitors are over here, it's like, what should I be panicking about these other products? We really wanted to cause that conversation and question. So we also were just from the beginning, it's in our DNA. We are all about taking care of people, taking care of the environment, and making money at the same time. So we adopted the B Corporation principles. And the certified B Corp is it is a legal entity. A B Corporation is a legal entity in many states in the country, not in Iowa yet. So we use a third-party service that will audit us annually and make sure that we're abiding by it. Even though it was in our DNA from the beginning, we really like this foundation to grow on. It gives us metrics to hit. It gives us the goals that we need without us having to make them up on our own. And so, but it's really about a triple bottom line. It's people, planet, and profit. And people, planet, and profit is also known as TBL or 3BL. So you'll be seeing that around there. You guys had a similar deal. So a lot of people say it a lot of different ways. But in our organization, when we're making a big decision, it's about how much we're gonna make on it, because we got to make money. What's the impact on the planet, and how does it impact the people? So I have traveled to almost 30 countries around the world, and anecdotally, I've seen some really amazing infrastructure and some amazing things people are doing, and I've seen some really bad things. This is a view, literally popped out of our truck and went over a ridge, and this is a view in Madagascar that I came across. And when I went to Madagascar, I thought the whole island would look like this. And in reality, this was one of the very few places that I saw with this amount of biodiversity. What we're seeing over there is they used to export rice, now they're importing it. So much clear cutting, it's such a vulnerable environment. And so it is, sustainability was not something that, it was inherent in the indigenous people, but capitalists came in and took it all away. And so now what we're seeing over there is this massive clear cutting that's leading to uninhabitable places all throughout the island, and they're on the brink of a mass starvation. Now, we don't necessarily think that that could happen to us here, but I mean, you know, give us a few more years of doing what we're doing, and it could. So, again, it's like, you know, why do we want to be sustainable? Why do we want to take care of this? It seems a little bit silly, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but why take care of the people and the planet? The air we breathe, the water we drink, it was all amazingly pure at one point. I was recently on an island in the West Indies, and there were 365 rivers on this island, and you can go to any point on any river and just drink straight out of the river. There's so few places in the world that you can do that anymore. Every day that we are on this earth, there are more toxic chemicals hitting our waterways and getting into our drinking water, into our land. So it's just getting harder and harder for us to be sustainable. Sustainability is a bit of a selfish endeavor. I mean, you know, we're working into our business because now our society, you know, revolves around money, and so how do we make it all work? But really, it's about it's really about us. Like, Mother Earth's going to be around, but the fact is, we need to take care of future generations, and that's what we think about, taking care of people. We're taking care of the planet so that we can take care of the people and have our species survive. I'm going to go into people, planet, and profit. We have, at Ecolips, when we talk about people, we're talking about how we treat our employees, which are, you know, we try to pay them above average. We have above average benefits. But it's not only the people, it's community. It's getting out and doing things like this, spreading the word. It's suppliers. We have two notable supplier preference policies, purchasing policies, where we have a local preference policy where if you're within 350 miles of our headquarters, where we manufacture stuff, which is just a mile away from here, you are more likely to have our business than if you're outside of that area. We have a similar policy for underrepresented populations. So it's the underrepresented population purchasing preference policy. Underrepresented, I'm not even going to try it again. So, but basically, we have the same product. It's same product, same quality, same price. And I mean, to put it in layman's terms, it's from a minority owner or runner of the business. We would opt to go with that business over the one that has a couple of white guys running the business. I mean, that's just trying to kind of spread the love. When we get scored with our B Corp every year, we get a higher score the more of that we do, and we believe that we are creating a better world in that process. So, planet. We do things like, you know, we started Iowa's largest solar power project back in 2004. We offset all of our wind, we offset all of our power with wind credits. But we look at our products inherently using certified organic products, no pesticides, herbicides, minimal processing, fair trade relationships. It's all about minimizing the impact. We know that I don't think there's any business out there, any entity that actually provides a net positive. Like, we all make an impact. Our offices, this light, even though it's LEED certified, we're not doing anything extra. We're just minimizing our impact. So that's our goal with our products. But we also try to innovate in our delivery of our products. So 2 years ago, we launched the first biodegradable lip balm container. This is made out of paper. It's a rudimentary type of design, but we were the first to do it. It's a push-up container, paper. So when your lip balm is done, you could, I mean, if you were to litter it, it would become nutrients in the soil. If you compost it, same deal. So very, very low impact. Now, getting consumers to adopt this over the standard plastic chapstick container is a trick, and getting retailers to carry this is a real trick as well. But since this is part of our mission, this is the kind of thing we do to put it on the line. This last year, we invented Pogo, and this is the world's first refillable lip balm container. And so once you buy your body, which would be this thing here, you can literally refill it with these little refill cartridges. So it's kind of a razors and blades concept. We did a test last year. We're still figuring this out. Some people love it. Some people hate it. We're going to do everything we can to get people to love it. So this year we'll be launching it with refills in some retailers to kind of show how what it's all about. But we're just going to continue pushing the limits on ingredients, formulation, and delivery. Profit. Yvon Chouinard, the founder of Patagonia, is an outdoor clothing brand. One of his old missions was, the first line was make money, the second line was give money away. And so that is sort of our ethos and hopefully my banker's not in here actually, but we really try hard. So we don't make a ton of money, but when what we do make, we give some of it to Pencils of Promise, and we're helping build schools around the world in some very desperate parts of the world that need schools. The lower picture is, these are our mangango growers. So we brought in this ingredient called mangango oil, and we were the first in the United States to bring this in through a friend of mine that's a social worker, and she found this in Zambia, Africa. These women have no source of income. They're knee-deep in mangango seeds, and we help cultivate an oil out of that. And so now they got back to us and said, hey, here's your mangango oil, $1 a pound. We're like, you know what, we're going to pay you $1.15 a pound, so that, those numbers are made up, but we paid them more than they asked for the product, just to make sure that they can create a livelihood and a sustainable business out of this. At least I'm not getting the wrap it up one. It's comical being up here and seeing the wrap it up one come up. I like it. But yeah, so the trick here from a business perspective is that money drives all this. It's like we have to make money. We are, it's how our society runs, and so we do have to put profit we really need to make it an important part of business. If we don't have money, we can't give it away. But what the triple bottom line does is it puts people and planet on the same level, and that's what our goal is. My last sentence here is, that we need a planet. We need a planet to live on so that we can continue to thrive. And I hope that through these sustainability initiatives that the city's taking on, through these massive things that Quaker's doing, and then some small startups that we're doing, and then individual actions, it's not going to be one thing. It's going to be a little, it takes a village. It's going to be little things that we all do. So thank you very much, and looking forward to some interaction here. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve. Yes, it saved us a little bit of time and got in an excellent message. So thank you for sharing. Thank you to all of our presenters. You did an excellent job both in the day, and you had energy left for the night. You've given us 5.5 hours of your time.